Dear beloved chosen ones, when the universe selects a soul for purpose, every force sent to break them ultimately becomes fuel for their rise and poison to those who sent it. Did you see what they did? No, really. Did you see it? They laughed when you were crying. They smiled while you were struggling. They made you the punchline in rooms you were never invited to. They mocked your heart, your mind, your very purpose, as if it were all a joke. How dare they? They thought you were soft. They thought you were weak. They thought the universe had made a mistake choosing you. But what they never counted on was this: you were never fighting alone, and the time for divine reversal has come. You weren't imagining it. The whispers, the fake smiles, the underhanded comments, the looks. They wanted you destroyed, and some of them didn't even bother to hide it. They laughed at your failures. They clapped when you cried. They projected their poison and waited from a distance, hoping to see you fall. And yes, there were moments you almost did, weren't there? You doubted yourself. You questioned your power. Their words echoed louder than your truth. You started to shrink, to believe their lies. You wondered, maybe I am too much. Maybe I am broken. But no, you were never broken. You were being rebuilt. You weren't losing. You were being hidden for protection. They thought you had no one watching your back. They thought you were fighting this battle alone, but the universe was collecting every receipt. And now it's payback season. Tell me, did they really think they could defile your name and walk away unscathed? Did they think they could throw dirt on your purpose and not soil their own hands? Did they think the chosen one would stay down, that you would remain silent while they built lies atop your back? They thought wrong. Now they're confused. Now they're terrified. Why? Because you didn't break. You got still. You didn't lash out. You healed. And while you healed, the storm began to turn. And now it's headed straight for them. You don't even need to clap back. The universe is already doing it for you. They called you crazy. Now they're the ones losing sleep. They called you unstable. Now they're unraveling. They called you finished. And now you shine brighter than ever. And the most haunting part for them, you didn't curse them. You didn't chase them. You simply kept rising. And that truth is haunting them louder than any words ever could. And before we dive deeper, I want to take a sacred moment to say thank you, truly, to all of you who continue to support these messages through super thanks. Your giving, whether large or small, is deeply appreciated and helps this community of chosen ones continue to rise and be strengthened. And hear me clearly, whether you donate or not, you are already valued beyond words, just for being here, for listening, for standing tall in your calling. Your presence alone is a gift. And beloved, we are only getting started. If you felt even a glimpse of this shift, this reversal, this silent storm building, then this message is yours. Drop 777 in the comments to confirm what your spirit already knows. That karma isn't just knocking, it's kicking the door off the hinges. And as we continue, every like, every comment, every share helps amplify this truth and allows it to reach another chosen one who may still be questioning if what they feel is real. It is. Now prepare yourself, because what's coming next, it won't just sound good, it will cut through illusions. If you are truly chosen, if you can feel the reversal starting to pulse through the cracks of your past pain, then your spirit already knows. You're not going anywhere. You are rising. You are covered. And they are learning a lesson they will never forget. Let's get into it. God's chosen ones. I've never seen karma hit this hard. This is scary. Lesson learned. Number 1. They called the storm. Now they're drowning in it. Chosen one, listen closely. This is a spiritual truth few dare to speak. There are people who once smiled in your face while whispering curses behind your back. They danced when you stumbled. They laughed when life seemed to corner you. They rejoiced when it looked like you were finished. And in their arrogance they summoned a storm they thought would wash you away. But what they failed to understand was this: when you are chosen, storms do not drown you. They forge you. The very forces they unleashed have now turned back upon them, and they are drowning in the torrent they themselves begged the universe to send, forgetting all along that it was aligned to boomerang. Have you ever wondered, chosen one, why they simply couldn't leave you alone? Why they kept poking and provoking instead of walking away in peace? It's because they mistook your patience for weakness. They mistook your silence for surrender. Mein Sohn, they thought mocking someone divinely protected would come without consequence. But here's where their miscalculation began. They tried to curse what heaven had already blessed. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Exodus 14:14. They didn't grasp the meaning of chosen. They saw your imperfections and assumed you were fragile. They witnessed your moments of isolation and misread them as rejection, not divine preservation. When the world seemed to overlook you, they assumed God had too. But what they couldn't see was that the heavens were never absent. They were recording, waiting, calculating the perfect moment when the scales would be balanced and the storm they hurled would return home, multiplied. History has shown us what happens to those who come against divine purpose. Take the story of Judas Iscariot. He plotted against Jesus for silver, believing betrayal would elevate him. Yet in the end, his life unraveled in despair, consumed by the very darkness he helped unleash. Why? Because betraying the chosen is never a game. It's a spiritual debt with interest. Chosen one, don't you see it now? The signs are everywhere. The ones who wished for your downfall are now unraveling. Their energy is off. Their minds are restless. Their reputation, once loud, is now a whisper. Their social glow has dimmed. Their confident masks have cracked. Do you notice how they post less, smile less, and shrink in the very rooms where they once thrived? Why do you think their sleep is broken, their peace stolen, their spirit haunted? Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. For whatever one sows, that will he also reap. Galatians 6:7. Some of them are seeing shadows, hearing voices, unable to trust even their own thoughts. Is that just bad luck? Or is it karma, dressed in the very form they unleashed? Understand this, chosen one. You did not retaliate. The universe, governed by divine law, did. The same spiritual law they mocked now answers louder than their schemes ever could. Consider Harvey Weinstein. Once a media titan, his abuses were hidden behind power and influence. But when the storm came, it consumed him entirely. Career, reputation, freedom, all lost. Those who harm others in secret often forget that spiritual justice is patient but unstoppable. Now tell me, have you ever doubted your protection? Be honest. There were nights you wept alone, asking, "Why is this happening to me?" You questioned whether you were cursed or simply too fragile for this world. You begged heaven for answers. And amid the noise of their lies, a small voice whispered, "If I'm chosen, why does this feel like punishment?" But here is your truth. It wasn't punishment. It was purification. It wasn't abandonment. It was divine alignment. No weapon that is fashioned against you shall succeed, and you shall refute every tongue that rises against you in judgment. Isaiah 54:17. While they were laughing, the universe was scripting. While they were scheming, it was building your protection. And when the time was ripe, the storm they summoned was released, not upon you, but upon them. And this isn't some minor setback they face now. No, this is system-wide collapse. Their peace, gone. Their mind, shattered. Their relationships, crumbling. Their finances, dwindling. And the worst part, they don't even know where to begin repairing it. Think of Elizabeth Holmes, the former CEO of Theranos. Once celebrated as a visionary, her deceit and manipulation of truth led to a monumental collapse, financial ruin, legal downfall, and public disgrace. When you play with the truth and attack the innocent, storms will come, and not always where you expect. Chosen one, realize this. They didn't just attack you, they attacked your purpose. They assaulted a soul placed here to shift timelines, break generational curses, and bring light into dark places. They waged war not on a person, but on a divine mission. Do you think that goes unnoticed by the spiritual realm? No, it awakens an ancient force, one they were never prepared to face. And now they live in fear, not guilt. They feel watched. The same divine presence they once mocked now hovers over their life. They can't escape it. They can't silence it. The karma they unleashed has found them, and it's relentless. But if you will not listen, behold, I will weep in secret for your pride. My eyes will weep bitterly and run down with tears, because the Lord's flock has been taken captive. Jeremiah 13:17. Chosen one, look around you. Have you noticed the shift? The people who once judged you are now questioning everything they believed. Those who left you are realizing the treasure they walked away from. And those who plotted your ruin, they now live the very nightmare they crafted for you. Think of Lance Armstrong, once a hero of endurance and triumph. Yet when the truth of deception surfaced, it shattered not only his career, but the image he so carefully built. Those who build their success upon falsehoods and at the expense of others often face a reckoning they cannot outrun. So now, chosen one, I ask you, what will you do with this new awareness? Will you shrink back? Will you dim your light to comfort those whose actions deserved this storm? Number, you were never chosen for comfort. You were chosen for impact. And now the weight of your impact reverberates through the spiritual realm and this earthly plane. Your name was disrespected, but you were not called to prove anything. You were called to endure everything. And now the proof of your resilience is written, not in words, but in their downfall. They called the storm, and now they drown in it. And you rise, untouched, unshaken, unstoppable. So rise boldly, chosen one, for this is only the beginning. Number 2, they laughed while you bled. Now they're screaming while the walls close in. Chosen one, I need you to remember this moment, not to stay trapped in it, but to understand what's unfolding. There was a time when your heart was shattered, your world crumbling piece by piece. And while you were fighting to simply breathe through the wreckage, they laughed. They didn't offer compassion. They didn't step away with respect. No, they delighted in your pain. They turned your suffering into a spectacle, your bleeding soul into their weekend entertainment. Have you asked yourself why it seemed so easy for them to be cruel? Why did they take so much joy in your collapse? Why did your pain make their eyes light up? Chosen one, it's because when light starts to flicker, darkness gathers to watch. You weren't just a person going through hardship, you were a chosen vessel being refined, and they mistook that sacred breaking for weakness. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Matthew 5:10. They didn't walk away quietly. Number, they clapped. They whispered behind closed doors. They shared your struggles as gossip, passing your wounds around like cheap conversation starters. They thought your silence meant surrender, your isolation meant rejection, your sadness meant defeat. They said, "See, no one wants them." They pointed to your exhaustion and said, "Look, they're falling apart." But chosen one, your fall was never the end. It was the groundwork of your rise. Think about Princess Diana. When her life unraveled in public, the media laughed. They feasted on her heartbreak, but the world later came to see the strength behind her vulnerability, and her legacy outlived the mockery. Sometimes, those who laugh at your bleeding don't realize they're witnessing a resurrection in progress. And now, those same mouths that mocked you cannot form words. Those eyes that watched you fall now blink in panic. The walls are closing in, and this time, it isn't karma alone. It's divine justice with a long memory. They thought your breakdown was for show. They thought you bled for attention, but the universe kept every receipt. When someone makes a mockery of sacred pain, that pain returns, not as guilt, but as fire. And now the fire is consuming their peace. The Lord is a refuge for the oppressed, a stronghold in times of trouble. Psalm 9:9. Chosen one, have you noticed the shift? Their posts have dwindled, their voices have softened. The boldness they once faked is gone. Why? Because the silence they left you in now haunts them. They cannot run from it. They don't fear exposure, they fear truth catching up. And it is. They can feel it in the pit of their stomachs every single day. Now ask yourself, why does it still hurt you? Why does the sting remain, even after the tables have turned? Because some of the people who laughed were ones you loved. You trusted them, you gave them access to your heart, to your story, and they sold it for attention. That betrayal, that's why the scars run deep. But know this, their mockery was always a projection of their own fear. Your potential terrified them. Your healing terrified them even more. Because if you were ever to rise in full power, their own falsehoods would be exposed. Look at Taylor Swift. She faced public humiliation and media backlash during her career lows, yet continued to rise. The very voices that mocked her later had to report her record-breaking successes. When you're chosen for greatness, the laughs eventually turn to stunned silence. So, chosen one, stop pretending you didn't feel their cruelty. Stop gaslighting yourself into thinking it was harmless. It wasn't. They meant it. They enjoyed it. And that is precisely why this shift is happening now. The universe is not petty. It is precise. When the curtain lifts, the truth can no longer be hidden, and now everyone sees who they truly are. For the Lord loves justice. He will not forsake his faithful ones. Psalm 37:28. Have you seen it? Their own friends now whisper behind their backs. Their support systems are unraveling just as they hoped yours would. The very phrases they used against you, too much, too dramatic, unstable, now follow them like shadows. They can't hold conversations without spiraling. They can't sit in silence without their thoughts devouring them. That's not coincidence. It's the echo of every cruel joke, every dismissive glance, every false story they spread while you were too weak to defend yourself. Consider Johnny Depp. Once dragged through public scandal and betrayal, he faced global judgment. Yet, in time, the truth surfaced, and those who mocked him had to confront their own role in perpetuating lies. The arc of truth may be long, but it always bends toward justice. Chosen one, do not shrink now. Do not question whether you are allowed to rise. Do not feel guilt for glowing when they are unraveling. They were not innocent. They were not confused. They were deliberate. And now the divine correction is here, not at your hand, but by universal law. Though they plot evil against you and devise wicked schemes, they cannot succeed. Psalm 21:11. You didn't ask for revenge. You focused on healing. You kept walking forward. But the universe honors the sacred journey of a wounded soul who chooses light. And now, as the dust settles and the noise fades, they sit alone with the shadows they birthed. They laughed while you bled. Now they gasp while the walls close in. And you owe them nothing. No reply, no reaction, no reminder. Keep rising. Because your survival wasn't just strength, it was a sentence upon them. And now, they are serving every second of it. Chosen one, don't look back. Your rising season has only begun. Number 3, they declared war on your spirit, but you had allies they couldn't see. Chosen one, let's make something very clear. What you endured wasn't just a random attack, it was a spiritual war. And you weren't the fragile target they thought you were. You weren't standing alone, though to human eyes, it may have looked that way. Behind your quiet exterior stood an army, one they couldn't see, one they never could have prepared for. And that, right there, is why they are now unraveling. Have you ever wondered why they kept coming after you? Why their obsession seemed personal, even when you'd done nothing to provoke them? Why their attacks grew more vicious when you simply chose to stay silent? It's because your spirit intimidated their demons. Your mere existence triggered their hidden darkness. And in their ego blindness, they believed you were an easy target. Just one person, one vulnerable soul, one isolated heart. But what they failed to grasp is this: when someone is chosen by God, they never walk alone. The angel of the Lord encamps around those who fear him, and he delivers them. Psalm 34 verse 7. They mistook your silence for weakness. They saw your heartbreak and called it a breakdown. They counted your isolation as defeat, and in their arrogance they thought, we can break this one. But chosen one, they didn't understand the battlefield they stepped onto, because when someone declares war on a chosen spirit, they aren't fighting one person. They are fighting divine alignment itself. Look at Nelson Mandela. For decades he was imprisoned, isolated, attacked by an oppressive system. His enemies thought they had broken him, yet behind that cell door, unseen forces were aligning. History, destiny, and the moral arc of justice stood with him. And when the time came, those unseen allies elevated him to lead a nation. What seemed like defeat was divine preparation. Chosen one, you too were never unarmed. You were covered. You weren't broken. You were being fortified by forces they couldn't comprehend. You were backed by something greater than the human mind could grasp. The universe, heaven itself, never sends the chosen into battle empty-handed. You were sent with armor, alignment, and ancestors standing shoulder to shoulder with your destiny. That is what they failed to account for. They thought this war was about hurting your feelings, damaging your reputation, sabotaging your growth. But when they aimed their energy at your spirit, they crossed an invisible boundary. They activated a force they were not equipped to fight. What they attacked was sacred. They didn't understand spiritual law. They didn't know that divine protection moves in silence, but strikes with precision. No weapon forged against you will prevail, and you will refute every tongue that accuses you. Isaiah 54:17. Why do you think their life is glitching now? Why do you think the doors they once walked through have slammed shut? Why do you think the very people who cheered them on are now backing away? It's because the universe does not allow attacks on the chosen to go unanswered. When you attack a life aligned with purpose, you activate its covering. And that covering, it doesn't negotiate, it cleans house. Think of Malala Yousafzai. Shot for pursuing education, her enemies thought they had silenced her spirit. But unseen allies, global advocates, spiritual protection, and unwavering purpose lifted her voice to the world stage. The attempt to destroy her only multiplied her impact. Chosen one, your story mirrors this truth. Attacks meant to break you become the fuel that elevates you. And let's talk about that covering. Have you ever wondered why you didn't fully break? Why in your lowest moments something still held you together? Why you felt like giving up, but deep down something refused to let go? That was your spiritual defense, the armor forged by divine intention, the reason the darkness they sent never landed fully. You didn't survive by luck, you were protected by design. And yet you doubted, didn't you? You questioned your strength. You wondered if maybe you were imagining things. You asked why you kept losing people, why you seemed to be the one always under attack. But now the truth is emerging. You were never weak. You were carrying something powerful, and your presence exposed every counterfeit spirit in the room. Look at Oprah Winfrey. Betrayed, underestimated, publicly criticized, yet she rose above it all. Why? Because her mission was larger than any personal attack. The unseen forces of purpose and alignment stood with her, and in the end, her impact silenced her critics. Chosen one, isolation was never exile, it was elevation. While they thought you were falling apart, you were being upgraded. While they gathered weapons against you, the universe was sharpening yours. Your silence wasn't surrender, it was strategy. Your heartbreak wasn't defeat, it was preparation. Now, as the shift unfolds, let them panic. Let them feel the weight of what they invoked. Because this is not bad luck, it is divine response. They declared war on your spirit, but your spirit wasn't alone. It was reinforced, recalibrated, and resurrected by forces far beyond their understanding. But the Lord is faithful, and he will strengthen you and protect you from the evil one. 2 Thessalonians 3:3. And now they are realizing you weren't the battlefield, you were the boundary, you were the line they should never have crossed. And their suffering now is not your revenge, it is their earned consequence. You didn't need to fight them. Your alignment did the fighting for you. Your only task was to survive long enough to witness the balance being restored. Consider Martin Luther King Jr., threatened, attacked, assassinated. Yet even in death, the forces that stood behind him elevated his message beyond what his enemies could ever silence. The battle was never about one man. It was about the divine mission he carried. So now, chosen one, let them fall. Let them drown in the very energy they once tried to bury you in. You owe them nothing, no response, no reaction, no explanation. Keep rising, keep walking. Your survival is your statement, your existence is your victory, because they declared war on your spirit, but you were never fighting alone. And now they're not fighting you. They're fighting the consequence of underestimating what you carry. Number 4, you didn't just trigger them, you exposed them. Chosen one, let's make something very clear. The storm that unfolded around you wasn't because you attacked anyone. It wasn't because you waged a campaign or tried to ruin reputations. No, you didn't lift a finger. You didn't throw dirt. You didn't gossip. You didn't scheme. You simply stood in truth. And when truth stands still, masks fall on their own. Have you ever asked yourself, why did your very existence seem to rattle entire rooms? Why did your name alone cause whispers in circles you hadn't even entered? Why did people who barely knew you form opinions so passionately? It wasn't because you did anything to them. It was because your energy, pure, unfiltered, aligned, exposed everything they wanted to keep hidden. For there is nothing hidden that will not be disclosed, and nothing concealed that will not be known or brought out into the open. Luke 8:17. Chosen one, your light didn't just shine, it exposed. It wasn't the force of your voice. It wasn't the reach of your platform. It wasn't even your outward strength. It was the unshakable integrity of your spirit that made it impossible for falsehood to survive beside you. Because truth doesn't compete. Truth doesn't mimic. Truth just is, and everything built on lies begins to shake in its presence. Think about Fred Rogers, Mr. Rogers. He didn't shout. He didn't chase attention. He simply lived his truth, spoke with compassion, and carried an authenticity that revealed how shallow so much of the media landscape around him really was. And in doing so, without ever throwing a punch, he exposed an entire culture of performative kindness and artificial personas. That's what happened when you entered their space. You didn't have to fight. You didn't have to argue. Your alignment was enough. Your peace was enough. And that, right there, is why they hated you. Not for being loud, not for doing too much, but for doing nothing they could fake. for having presence without performance, for walking in peace they couldn't manufacture. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. John 1:5. You didn't destroy their image. You didn't sabotage their name. You simply stood in truth, and that truth made their spiritual costumes melt. Your confidence called out their insecurity. Your calm exposed their inner chaos. Your growth highlighted their stagnation. Your light revealed their shadows, and they couldn't stand it. So what did they do? They flipped the narrative. They turned your name into a warning. They called you unstable, fake, difficult, dangerous. But why, chosen one? Because you refused to play the game. Because you couldn't be controlled. Because standing next to you forced people to see the difference between what is real and what is performed. Think of Harriet Tubman. She wasn't a loud revolutionary. She simply moved in purpose. But her very existence as a free woman, exposing the lie of slavery, made her a target. The truth of her life undermined the entire system. In the same way, your authenticity shakes any room built on pretense. Now, why do you think people who barely knew you had so much to say? Why did those once close to you suddenly flip without warning? Why did your rising confidence make them shrink? It's because you weren't just triggering them, you were exposing them. You walked in with scars. They pretended they had none. You admitted your darkness. They hid behind spiritual costumes. You walked in honest. They performed righteousness. And your presence forced people to look twice. Not just at you, but at them. That terrified them. You will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. John 8:32. You didn't steal their spotlight. You just proved it was artificial. And when authenticity and artifice stand side by side, the difference becomes undeniable. That's why they fought so hard to destroy you. Not because you did anything wrong, but because you existed as a living mirror. And mirrors show what people can no longer hide. Think of Anthony Bourdain. His unapologetic honesty about life, food, and culture exposed how much of the culinary and media world was driven by elitism and pretense. He didn't need to tear anyone down. He simply spoke truth. And that truth made many uncomfortable. And now, chosen one, the masks are falling. The people who lied about you can no longer hold their narratives. The ones who painted you as unstable now spiral in public. The ones who called you fake now scramble to hold together the image they once projected. But let's be honest, you still struggle, don't you? You still catch yourself doubting your worth. You still replay those betrayals. You still wonder if you're too much. You still consider holding back to avoid making others uncomfortable. But stop and ask yourself, was it really you? Or was it what you reflected? Was it your presence or their lack of it? Was it your healing or the fact they refused to begin theirs? Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you. Isaiah 61. Chosen one, your energy does not lie. And now that the dust is settling, people are beginning to see who was who. You were always the mirror, and mirrors do not create problems, they reveal them. So stop dimming, stop apologizing, stop questioning whether you should have been quieter to make them more comfortable. You didn't start the war. You walked in peace, and their masks fell like dominoes. Let them panic. Let them scramble. Let them twist the story. Because no matter how loud they get, the truth has already won. And you? You didn't have to lift a finger. You just had to stand. Consider Greta Thunberg. A young girl standing in truth about climate change rattled world leaders, not because she attacked them, but because her truth exposed their inaction. You embody the same principle. When you live aligned, your presence alone is enough. Chosen one, keep standing, because your presence is powerful, your peace is potent, and the light you carry will always expose what cannot coexist with it. Number 5. They tried to rewrite your story, but the universe had final edit. Chosen one, let's be clear. There was a time when it felt like your whole life was being rewritten by hands that had no right to touch your story. They thought they held the pen. They thought if they told enough lies, twisted enough facts, and painted you in just the right shade of villainy, they could erase your truth entirely. But they underestimated one thing. The universe always holds the final edit. The plans of the Lord stand firm forever, the purposes of his heart through all generations. Psalm 33:11. Have you ever sat in a room and felt the weight of a lie that was spoken about you? Have you watched connections dissolve, not because of something you did, but because of a story someone else created? You lost relationships, opportunities and respect, not through failure of your own, but through the quiet envy of those who couldn't handle your light. They wrapped their false concern in whispered conversations. They weaponized their insecurities as facts. And for a while, it worked. Think of Nelson Mandela, labeled a terrorist and imprisoned for decades. The world believed a distorted version of his story, but the divine hand had the final say, and the true narrative of his life emerged stronger than any lie they tried to sell. The same is true for you, chosen one. What your enemies didn't know was this: the universe does not allow false authors to finish the stories of the chosen. They may draft destruction, but divine editing corrects every false line. And now, the plot has flipped. The very ones who thought they were in control are trapped in the very lies they wrote. Have you noticed the shift? The same mouths that once shouted falsehoods now struggle to speak. The same people who spread rumors now avoid eye contact. Why? Because truth has a way of rising, and energy always returns to its source. You didn't have to beg anyone to believe you. You didn't have to defend yourself in every room where they stained your name. Your energy speaks for you. Even in silence, your presence tells the truth. No weapon that is fashioned against you shall succeed, and you shall refute every tongue that rises against you in judgment. Isaiah 54:17. And now, the people who once believed the lies, they're beginning to question everything, because you didn't crash, you didn't self-destruct, you didn't become the cautionary tale they predicted. You rose, and your rising has made their entire narrative collapse. Consider Robert Downey Jr., once written off by Hollywood due to personal struggles. Many believed the story of his downfall was final, but with divine timing and purpose, he rose to become one of the most beloved and successful actors of his generation. Lies can only hold for so long when truth is destined to rise. The ones who lied about you are now trapped in the story they created, because when they spoke falsely about you, they weren't just gossiping, they were generating spiritual energy, and energy demands resolution. Now that energy is circling back, loud and undeniable. They said you were unstable, yet now they're the ones unraveling. They said you were a problem, yet their own lives are steeped in conflict. They said you were manipulative, yet no one trusts them anymore. Why? Because when you tamper with divine authorship, you pay a spiritual price. For we cannot do anything against the truth, but only for the truth. 2 Corinthians 13:8. They forgot that you aren't writing your story alone. They forgot that divine timing edits in silence and then reveals everything in perfect clarity. And now that timing has arrived. You, the one they tried to erase, have become the centerpiece of a narrative they can no longer control. And what's most painful for them? You didn't retaliate, you didn't clap back, you didn't stoop to their level. You kept moving, quietly, consistently, divinely. That's what makes them panic now. Because no matter how loud they get, they can't bury the truth of your survival. They can't stop what the universe has already elevated. Think of Oprah Winfrey, once shamed and doubted early in her career. People wrote her off with false narratives, but her life's truth and divine alignment brought her to global influence and unmatched legacy. The false narratives couldn't compete with her authentic rise, and neither can yours. But let's be honest, You questioned yourself at times. You wondered if the lie would stick. You watched people pull away and thought maybe you were the problem. You grew weary of explaining yourself. You almost gave up the hope of being understood. And that is the raw pain of the chosen path. Sometimes your story must go dark before the light makes sense. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Psalm 23:4. Yet here you are, still standing, still rising, still being written into chapters they will never be allowed to touch. So stop worrying about your name. Stop chasing explanations. Stop hoping they'll fix what they broke. They can't. The moment they chose to distort your story, they surrendered their right to be part of your future. Let them sit in the lie. Let them dwell in the false script they created, because the real story, the one the universe is unfolding, was never about their opinion. It was about your endurance, your survival, your purpose. And now the universe is revealing the truth to everyone watching. You were never the villain. You were always the main character, and the only twist here is that you win. Number 6. They wanted you to break loud, but you healed quiet. Chosen one, do you know what shook them the most? It wasn't a grand speech. It wasn't an angry post. It wasn't some dramatic confrontation. It was your silence. They waited. They plotted. They whispered. They were counting the days until you would snap in public. They imagined the spectacle, your crash, your tears, your unraveling, broadcasted for all to see. Why? Because their entire narrative about you depended on it. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Exodus 14:14. But here's where you flipped the script. You didn't give them what they were so desperate to witness. You didn't collapse loudly for their satisfaction. You didn't perform your pain for their twisted entertainment. You chose instead to heal quietly, with dignity, behind closed doors where their eyes couldn't follow. Think about it. Why do you think they pushed so hard? Why were they poking the wound, stirring the pot, fueling the fire? Because your reaction was their validation. If you lashed out, they could say, "See? I told you they were unstable." If you screamed, they could point and whisper, "I knew they'd break." But when you didn't give them the show, their narrative crumbled. Look at Meghan Markle. The media spun countless lies about her character. They waited for her to break publicly, but instead of giving them the emotional outburst they craved, she maintained her composure and allowed the truth to surface on its own. The same power of silence protected you. Chosen one, it wasn't weakness that kept you still, it was divine wisdom, and in that silence something powerful happened. You began to rebuild, not in reaction to them, but in alignment with your purpose. Behind the scenes, while they obsessed over your name, you obsessed over your growth. Your mind got sharper, your peace got deeper, your energy stretched into realms they can't reach. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. And now, the silence they mistook for defeat is haunting them. They can't understand how you're still standing. They're confused why people are still drawn to you. They're watching your progress with mounting dread, because it reveals a truth they never wanted exposed. You are unstoppable. Let me ask you, how many times did you want to react? How many times did you want to scream, "I see what you're doing"? How many nights did you rehearse the words you wished you could say, but something greater whispered, "No, stay still. Let the universe handle this"? And that restraint wasn't weakness, it was protection. Because had you engaged, you would have dimmed your own rise. Consider Michelle Obama. Attacked relentlessly during her years in the spotlight, many expected her to retaliate. Instead, she embodied the phrase, "When they go low, we go high." Her grace in the face of hate only elevated her legacy, a lesson that mirrors your own journey. Chosen one, your stillness became your power move. You let them talk. You didn't chase rumors. You didn't correct every whisper. You didn't exhaust yourself trying to change the narrative. Instead, you focused on what mattered, your evolution. And that evolution is now undeniable. Your glow exposes their bitterness. Your peace speaks louder than their gossip. Your healing has turned every lie into dust. They can't argue with your results. They can't bury the reality of your rise. Because when truth moves in silence, it eventually becomes deafening. When the Lord takes pleasure in anyone's way, he causes their enemies to make peace with them. Proverbs 16:7. And yes, you doubted yourself along the way. You wondered if silence mattered. You questioned whether you should have fought back louder. You felt the pull to explain yourself, to reclaim your name. But look now, your results are speaking volumes. Your presence alone is making them flinch. You are walking proof that divine timing trumps petty schemes. Think about Keanu Reeves. Despite facing personal tragedies and relentless tabloid lies, he never fought back publicly. His quiet endurance and steady spirit won the world's respect over time. Chosen one, your journey carries that same power. You didn't have to argue. You just had to outlive the lie. Now, every time you rise, it reminds the world that they failed to break you. Every time you thrive, it calls attention to the fact that their predictions didn't come true. They had their moment of noise. But you have momentum, and momentum always outlasts gossip. Let me ask you again, was your silence weakness, or was it wisdom? Was it surrender, or was it the space required for your elevation? Because the truth is this, they underestimated the kind of silence that chosen ones carry. Not the silence of fear, but the silence of power. The kind of stillness that says, I don't have to prove anything. The results will. But they who wait for the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. Isaiah 40:31. And now they feel it. They scroll past your face and flinch. They hear your name and stiffen. They watch your wins pile up like bricks building a legacy they can't touch. You didn't expose them with receipts. You exposed them with results. And that is the one thing they will never recover from. Because anyone can argue a rumor, but no one can argue what they can see with their own eyes. So the next time you question whether your silence mattered, remember this. They were counting on your noise. They were desperate for your breakdown. But the real plot twist, you healed quietly. You rose strategically. You moved in purpose. And now, your very existence is the loudest revenge of all. Chosen one, keep moving, keep building, keep rising, because your silence wasn't empty. It was the foundation of something unstoppable. Number 7, they built a fire for you. Now they're begging for rain. Chosen one, hear me clearly. This fire you walked through, it was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to reveal you. There are people who, with full intent and malice, built a fire with their own hands, stacked with the fuel of jealousy, betrayal, and hate. They dragged in every branch of bitterness, every rumor soaked in envy, and they lit it with a smirk, convinced that this would be the blaze to finally bring you down. When you walk through the fire, you shall not be burned, and the flame shall not consume you. Isaiah 43:2. They didn't build it quietly. They circled it, waiting for the show, waiting for your screams, waiting to see your life consumed in flames so they could say, "See? Told you they couldn't handle it. Told you they were weak." But chosen one, you didn't burn. You transformed. Because you weren't in that fire to be destroyed. You were in it to be purified. Think of Nelson Mandela, who spent 27 years in prison under a brutal regime. They thought the fire of isolation would break him, but it refined him. When he emerged, he was crowned, not by those who imprisoned him, but by the world that witnessed his resilience. What they failed to realize was this: they didn't ignite your end, they triggered your rebirth. You were never the victim of their flames. You were the weapon being forged within them. And that's the truth about chosen ones. We don't melt under pressure. We don't panic in the heat. We emerge sharper. We emerge clearer. We emerge deadlier to doubt and undefeatable in spirit. For you, God, tested us. You refined us like silver. Psalm 66:10. They thought the fire would expose your weakness. They thought it would strip you bare, but instead it revealed your power. And now the fire has turned. It is no longer your trial, it is their judgment. Because when someone sets a fire with malice in their heart, that energy doesn't simply vanish. It multiplies, it circles back, it consumes its source. Consider Joan of Arc. Her enemies set a literal fire to destroy her. But the flames didn't erase her legacy. They immortalized her. What her persecutors meant for death became the spark of a movement that still burns centuries later. Chosen one. Your story carries that same divine reversal. And now those who laughed at the thought of your ashes are scrambling. The same flames they set are licking at their feet. The universe saw them laugh at your suffering before it ever began, saw them plot in the shadows, masking their hate as concern. And now the energy they unleashed is returning, relentless and unforgiving. Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. For whatever one sows, that will he also reap. Galatians 6:7. Look around, chosen one. You walk through smoke with grace. You wear your scars as armor. You speak with an authority that can only come from having survived what others wouldn't dare face. You came through the fire, not diminished, but undeniable. Have you noticed how much calmer you are now? How little you react to the noise? It's because the fire burned away what didn't belong to you. It scorched the doubt, the pain, the false identities others tried to place upon you. What remains is pure, refined, unshakable. Think of Malala Yousafzai. Shot by those who feared her voice, they thought the fire of violence would silence her. But instead, it forged her into a global advocate, her voice louder and more impactful than they ever imagined. Chosen one, you were forged in a fire they could not survive for 5 minutes. They played with a heat they could not control. And now, their lives are smoldering, their peace cracked, their lies unraveling, their reputation crumbling like dry grass in the wind. This is the price of igniting a fire they were never meant to touch. And let's be honest, you questioned it. When the flames began to rise, when the heat felt unbearable, you asked, "Why me? Why does it hurt so much? Why is everyone turning away while I burn?" But now you know. You weren't being punished. You were being crowned. Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, because having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life that the Lord has promised. James 1:12. Because the universe doesn't just protect the chosen, it tests them. It throws them into fires, not to reduce them, but to refine them, to ensure that when they rise, there is no question about what they are made of. And now that you've emerged, now that the smoke has cleared, the glow around you is undeniable. They can't deny your survival. They can't deny your strength. And worst of all, they can't deny that it was their own hands that built the fire which revealed you. Think of Tyler Perry, once homeless and ridiculed, told he'd never make it. The fires of poverty and rejection were meant to consume him, but they became the forge through which he built an entertainment empire, on his own terms. They thought their fire was a weapon, but it became your origin story. So let them beg for rain now, let them plead for relief, because what's happening to them is not an accident. It is the universe flipping the script. The fire didn't consume you, it announced you, and now it is consuming them. Chosen one, walk forward. The fire didn't destroy you, it crowned you. And no one can take that crown. Number 8. Karma isn't cruel, it's customized. chosen. 1. Listen carefully. Karma is not some random stroke of luck or some distant cosmic force that occasionally glances your way. Karma is precision. Karma is personal. Karma is customized. The universe doesn't do random. It delivers exactly what was earned. And when it arrives dressed in the exact fabric of the energy that was sent out. Do not be deceived. God is not mocked, for whatever one sows, that will he also reap. Galatians 6:7. Your enemies didn't believe that. They thought karma was a fairy tale. They thought spiritual law was a feel-good Instagram quote. They truly believed they could betray you in private and parade in public, smiling wide, toasting to their cleverness, thinking they had escaped any consequence. But they forgot this. Energy remembers everything. You can fool people. You can manipulate narratives. You can curate an image, but you cannot escape the return of what you put into the world. And now, the karma they never believed in is sitting front row in their life, and it's got their name on it. Look at Lance Armstrong. For years, he deceived the public about his use of performance-enhancing drugs. He thought he had outsmarted the system, that he could control the narrative. But karma arrived, precisely tailored, and when it hit, it wasn't cruel. It was complete. The truth surfaced, and his reputation crumbled under the weight of every lie he had sown. Chosen one, they thought they could throw dirt on your name and walk away clean. They thought they could weaponize your vulnerability, twist your truth, and rewrite your story. But what they didn't understand is this. Karma isn't cruel. It's exact. You don't just get back what you gave. You get it back wrapped in the energy you used to send it. The hands that typed out betrayal are now shaking. The lips that twisted your truth are now silent. The minds that plotted your downfall are now spiraling. That's not coincidence. That's the universe saying, we saw it all. We remember it all. And now it returns with interest. For the Lord is a God of justice. Blessed are all who wait for him. Isaiah 30:18. Chosen one, stop doubting your power. Stop pretending you didn't feel the shift. You knew. You felt the energy change. The room started to shift. The tone started to shift. People who were once bold suddenly grew quiet. That's the subtle evidence of karma's arrival. And the reason they're falling apart now. It's not because you fought them. It's because you didn't. You stayed aligned. You kept your hands clean. You focused on healing. And while they laughed, while they gloated, the energy was loading. The universe was watching, patiently crafting the exact moment to deliver the consequences they thought they'd escaped. Think of Princess Diana. Betrayed by those closest to her and hounded by the media, she maintained her dignity through it all. Many who once targeted her faced public disgrace and karma in their own lives. Her grace in adversity proved that sometimes you only need to survive for karma to do its work. Chosen one, you didn't need to chant, hex, or seek revenge. You didn't need to retaliate. You just had to survive. You just had to not become like them. And that is why the backlash is so brutal now. Because you chose alignment when they chose destruction, and the universe always honors alignment. The Lord works righteousness and justice for all who are oppressed. Psalm 103, verse 6. It's time to stop asking, why did they do that to me? Stop replaying the pain. Instead, recognize the power it activated within you. They thought they were breaking you, but all they did was reveal what could not be broken. You didn't emerge from the storm crying. You emerged crowned. You weren't reduced. You were rebuilt. And now their karma is forced to watch your glow rise higher and higher, slicing through every lie they tried to weave around you. Think of Johnny Depp. Publicly slandered and betrayed, many expected him to fade, but he allowed the truth to unfold in time, and karma, dressed with precision, restored his name while exposing those who tried to destroy him. Let that sink in. They used their free will to try to engineer your downfall. They used their mouths to twist your truth. They used your pain as ammunition. And now the cost is arriving. And no, karma isn't cruel. It's the most patient executioner alive. It waits, it watches, it lets them laugh, it lets them build. And just when they think they've escaped, it drops the full weight of their actions on their shoulders. Chosen one, do not feel bad. Do not wonder if it's too harsh. What they did wasn't an accident. It was intentional. They chose their energy. They chose their words. They chose their actions. And now, the universe is simply fulfilling what they requested, whether they knew it or not. The Lord is known by his acts of justice. The wicked are ensnared by the work of their hands. Psalm 9:16. You were never the one in danger. They were. The moment they touched your life with malice, they signed up for a storm they were never designed to survive. So let it hit. Let karma rip through every illusion they built. Let it erase every fake version of themselves they tried to present to the world. And you don't need to say a word. You don't need to defend yourself. The universe is already doing it for you. But now I speak directly to you. Chosen one, stop doubting what you carry. Stop pretending you are ordinary. Stop shrinking to fit rooms too small for your spirit. Stop calling your pain punishment. It was never punishment. It was preparation. It made you unshakable. It exposed the fakes. It revealed your resilience. And now it is setting the stage for your full emergence. Walk like you are backed by alignment, because you are. Walk like you are untouchable, because energetically you are. Walk like you've been through hell and walked out glowing, because you did. Let your light offend. Let your silence convict. Let your blessings slap their lies in the face. And let karma keep doing what karma does best, returning every seed they sowed in your name with interest. Because this isn't about revenge, it's about restoration. And every time you win, every time you rise, every time you smile in peace, you are proving the truth they feared most. You are chosen. You are covered. And now you are unstoppable. And so now, beloved chosen ones, we have seen it clearly for what it truly is. This was never about karma as some cruel punishment number. This was karma as proof that divine justice is real, proof that energy never forgets, proof that no weapon formed against you ever truly prospered, proof that you were never walking through that fire alone, and most of all, proof that every scheme against you only built the stage for your rise. They wrote the lie, they crafted the illusion, but the universe published the truth. And the truth is this: you are still here, you are glowing, you are stronger, and they are learning the cost of trying to curse what God has already blessed. So now, chosen one, it is your time to walk boldly in the identity that was always yours, to walk boldly in the restoration that is now unfolding, to walk boldly in the authority that was earned in the quiet places they never saw. You are no longer obligated to shrink. You are no longer required to explain. You are no longer held hostage by the wounds of the past. Now, before we close, I want to pause and say this from my heart. Thank you for being here. Thank you for standing with this message. Thank you for walking this path that so few understand, but so many watch. If this message resonated with your spirit today, and you feel led to give back, you can do so through Super Thanks. Your support helps us continue to share these truths with the world. But hear me clearly, whether you donate or not, I'm already deeply grateful for your presence here. Your time, your energy, your spirit. It is valued more than you know. And now, beloved chosen one, I speak this blessing over you. May you continue to rise with peace that surpasses understanding. May your steps be ordered. May your name be restored. May your light outshine every shadow. And may every seed of truth you've planted return to you 100-fold in this season. Walk boldly now, because the story is no longer being written by them. It is being written by heaven. And your victory is not just coming, it is here.